Hello guys, this is Shin Smith. Right, today I'm reacting to this video. Geography now, Philippines. Well, at the moment I have absolutely no idea what this video tells you about. Is this serious geography video or just comedy stuff? Well, let's get into it.
If you enjoy the content, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new here. So, let's get into it.
If you don't know anything about Asia, the Philippines is like the jolliest of them all. They're just happy, fun, jolly people. And
You know what? It's been 3 years. I'm not taking this anymore. I've been pushed around, I've been threatened, I've been thrown in the dungeon, I've been the butt of all the jokes. I'm the Filipino one. This is my time.
My time!
Wow. Going too far.
Welcome to the Philippines. My turn.
Okay.
Wow, looking forward to it.
To learn geography.
Now! Hey everyone, I'm Ken, and as you know, I'm half Filipino. Years ago, I was looking for a job and I saw this ad asking for a motion graphics animator on Craigslist. Paul and I literally met up at a Jollibee for my interview. He said I was his top 3 candidates.
In reality, there were only 3 candidates that applied, so technically I didn't lie. But yeah, the other 2 people kind of sucked, so yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
and back then, I had this weird mustache and Paul's hair was basically this thing.
Ken and I have been talking for a long time, and we agreed Ken definitely has to be in this episode. You've come so far from that Craigslist Jollibee interview, you've earned this.
Thanks. Handa na? Magsimula.
What?
The Philippines is an interesting country because there's sort of a dichotomy between labels. If you ask a Filipino if they consider themselves Asian or Pacific Islanders, you might get contrasting answers.
What do you consider yourself, Ken?
I always thought Pacific Islanders sounded kind of cool, so I usually stuck with that. So first of all,
The Philippines is a tropical archipelago of over 7,000 islands, about 2,000 of which are
Wow.
inhabited, and it is the largest
Yes.
island nation without any land
Wow.
borders or shared island territory
More
with
than I
another
thought.
nation.
the country is located in Southeast Asia, straddling the Philippine Sea in the north, the South China Sea in the west, and the Sulu and Celebes Sea in the south.
Just to
Yeah,
skip away
surrounded
lies the
by the
island
sea.
of Borneo, which is split amongst 3 nations, at the closest point only about 22 miles or 40 kilometers away from the nearest island that belongs to the Philippines.
Now, in general, many people will refer to one of the 3 main island cluster regions that people are a part of. There are Luzon in the north, where you can find the capital Manila, and where the
Yeah,
half
that's
of
the way
population
I
lives.
usually
Visaya
go.
in the center, and Mindanao in the south.
Otherwise, the nation is made up of 17 regions, one of which is autonomous, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. This place has a high level of self-rule and autonomy appointed by the
Wow,
government.
I
We'll
didn't
explain
know.
more about this later.
If you want to be absolutely technical, Quezon City, a bit north of Manila, is the largest city in the Philippines. However, the surrounding 16 towns and cities by Manila are called Manila Metro, or the National Capital Region, and they basically act as one unit.
Otherwise, the
Yeah.
largest city outside of the NCR are Davao City in Mindanao and Cebu in the Visayas.
Manila has the largest and busiest airport, Ninoy Aquino International Airport, which is basically the hub that
Yeah, I usually
services
use
the
that.
entire NCR. They also have the busiest shipping port at the Port of Manila.
Otherwise, the second largest airport is Cebu Mactan International,
Oh, yeah,
and
Mactan.
rounding out for third place is Davao City Francisco Bangoy International.
I've
In
never
terms
been
of
to
land
Davao,
transport, though,
by
the
the way.
Philippines is well connected amongst the islands. In fact, the longest highway is the Pan-Philippine Highway that stretches about 3,500 kilometers across the country and connects Luzon, Samar, Liet, and Mindanao
that's
with
quite
underground
long.
tunnels connecting them.
Finally, the Philippines has only 2 territorial disputes. The state of Sabah in Malaysia on North Borneo. The territory once had been part of the Sultanate of Sulu, a Muslim state that existed the 15th century to the 20th century, and that's a whole other story.
As for the others dispute, as we mentioned quite a few times already, this whole area known as the Spratly Islands is a complete mess. If you don't know anything about this place, it basically goes like this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. This is the map showing what everyone claims in the area. This big one right here is China's. Like, yeah, they
Oh,
just
so
kinda pretty much went for all of it.
complicated.
This has even led to a few skirmishes
So you guys
between
are
nations that have
conflicting
built control
about the
stations on the island.
territorial
And when they spot a
issues.
ship that gets too close, things can get kind of ugly.
It's kind of like this.
Hey, what are you doing? This is my area.
I'm just doing some fishing and research here, you know?
Why do you have a shovel then? Are you building something? Or?
Well, technically there's no land protruding from this reef, so there's no land claim.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna build your own land.
For research.
So you guys hate
Anyway,
China, right?
here are some notable spots of interest.
Fort Santiago,
Magellan's Cross,
San Agustin Church,
Sagada Hanging Coffins,
Aguinaldo Shrine,
Cebu's Philippine Taoist Temple,
Yeah.
Shrine of Mama Mary in Tagaytay,
the Lapu-Lapu Shrine,
Luneta Park,
MacArthur Landing Site,
Bunawi Rice
Oh,
Terrace.
good places.
Malacanang Palace,
I want to go
Vigan
there.
has many historical
Oh,
and colonial
Vigan,
buildings.
yeah.
the various national
That's a good
museums of
place.
history and arts.
Tons of amusement parks.
And that's not even including all the natural wonders of the Philippines. They have an underground river.
Wow.
The most amazing, beautiful
Oh yeah,
beaches
Boracay
in
Beach.
the universe.
That's the
Hills that
best
look
place
like
I want
lumps
to go
of
there.
chocolate.
And there's an island in a lake, in an island, in a lake, in an island.
We should hang out sometime.
Yeah, when you have 7,000 tropical islands on a volcanic archipelago,
Wow.
chances are things can get pretty crazy landscape-wise. Which brings us to... The actual physical land of the Philippines is the biggest treasure you will find here for sure. Anyway, the Philippines lies on the Ring of Fire and is specifically on a tectonic plate named after
Ring
them,
of
the
Fire.
Philippine Plate.
And about 95% of the land is made up of the 11 largest islands.
The country was essentially formed through the tectonic activity between the Philippine, Manila, and the Mindanao Trenches, the Mindanao being the second deepest in the world.
This makes the country susceptible to small earthquakes and minor
Oh
volcanic
yeah,
activity.
Earthquake
About 53
Island, right?
active volcanoes
Yeah,
can
same
be
as
found in all
Japan.
of these largest islands, except
really
for Palawan.
tough, isn't
The
it?
most famous and picturesque of these include these three.
See this island here, Camiguin? It actually has more volcanoes than towns on it. 7 versus 5, making it the place with the most
And
number
are
of
they still
volcanoes per
active?
square kilometer
Wow,
in the
it's
world.
terrible.
In fact, the tallest peak in the Philippines is a potentially active volcano, Mount Apo, located in the South
Apo.
Mindanao area.
The country has numerous mountain ranges and highlands that dip into the fertile valleys, the largest range being the Cordillera Range in the North Luzon area, hooking into the Sierra Madre Range on the east side, which feeds the longest river of the country, the Cagayan, that flows into the Cagayan Valley.
This valley, along with the Central Luzon Valley, are the largest arable croplands and produce nearly all of the rice
Oh
in the
really?
The Visayas are known for growing the most sugarcane, whereas Mindanao specializes heavy
Oh,
in coconut and
Visaya.
fruit production.
Back in Luzon, though, you can find the largest lake in the country, Lake Laguna
Oh,
Daba,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
actually in the caldera of a dormant volcano.
The lake has a weird detached island called Talim and is actually drained by the Pasig River that flows through the capital Manila.
And finally, the country is the heart of typhoon territory.
yeah,
they can
yeah.
come at almost any time of the
That's
year.
terrible,
the nation
right?
will experience on average about 20 of the turbulent storms annually, which often
Oh my
flood to their
God,
many
that's
river systems.
really
But
tough.
yeah, if anything, Filipinos are the most cyclone-adapted people
Oh,
on
really?
Earth.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
used to
yeah,
it.
I think
the water
so,
has always
yeah.
been kind of their thing. Swimming, sailing, fishing.
Just not exactly quite diving into it.
Otherwise, the Philippines is one of the 17 mega-diverse nations on Earth.
They actually have the largest level of marine biodiversity in the world within their waters and the highest rate of animal discovery on the planet, with 16 new mammal species that were discovered in the past decade.
Wow,
They
that's
have everything
interesting.
from
The longest snake in the world, the reticulated
I've never
python.
seen Philippines in
largest
terms
fish in
of
the
the
world, whale
animals.
sharks.
Wow,
7 of the 8 known species of giant clam are found in the
that's
Philippines.
interesting.
the world's smallest hoofed animal, the Philippine mouse deer.
And their national bird is the
Wow,
largest eagle
Philippine
in
eagle.
the world.
That's
Economically
original.
speaking, the Philippines is considered a newly industrialized
Mm-hmm.
nation. It is transitioning out of becoming an agricultural-based system to a service and manufacturing
Yeah,
system.
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
have like 3 of the top 10 largest malls on Earth.
Ooh, just you wait. I'm taking the top spot soon.
They're one of the fastest growing economies in Asia, and as the 34th largest economy in the world, their
Oh,
GDP purchasing power parity has surpassed
34th.
the $2 trillion mark.
Basically,
quite
the
big.
Philippines is definitely becoming a key power player.
Yeah,
in
I
the
think
world
so,
stage.
yeah.
It's like
We're so rich!
Wealth and prosperity.
Yeah, someday.
For what it's worth, though, mining,
You guys are
fishing, and
developing in
agriculture
the
are
future.
strong industries as well. They are
Yeah,
currently
catch
the
up
world's
many
largest nickel
developed
and
country,
abaca or Manila hemp
including
producers,
Japan, you know?
and the second largest coconut producer after Indonesia.
Tourism, though, is another important industry, taking up about 8% of their GDP, employing over 3 million people.
And now,
Wow,
food.
yeah.
Now, in the Philippines, every region has their own specialty
Yeah,
in
that's
culinary
what I
stream.
interesting.
Every dish looks like
what
a
I think
fairy
it's interesting.
exploded.
Lots of dishes you could eat kumakain kamay, or eat with your hands.
Yeah, pretty much everything has rice, and then you're gonna get a lot of grease and salt and vinegar, and a lot of like, I don't care if that looks like it goes there or not, I'm still gonna eat it anyway. Right, Ken?
Yeah, that's Filipino food.
Yeah.
There's really no official national dish, but 3 meals that are well known for are adobo, lumpia, and sinigang.
Sinigang.
And in the non-Muslim parts, lechon
Yeah,
is a
lechon, I
huge
like
deal.
it.
There are
yeah.
also dishes like
Tagalog
It looks
steak,
gross
Tinola.
though.
pansit luglug,
kare-kare,
Kare-kare.
stick,
tapsilog,
balut,
kinilaw.
and my favorite Filipino dish, palabok. Just put some
Oh.
nice little lemon juice on it. Actually, guys, it's
Jollibee,
like Jollibee.
wow.
If you don't know what Jollibee is, it's like the most popular fast food chain in the Philippines. It's like if McDonald's and KFC had
No
adopted a
offense though,
Filipino
but
baby,
I
and they
hate
even added
Jollibee.
spaghetti to their menu for
It's
some reason.
unhealthy.
Otherwise,
you know?
Filipinos are dessert experts. They love their ube,
Ube.
everything, ube ice cream,
Wow,
ube bread,
that's
ube pie,
good.
ube cakes.
Oh, they also have like sapin, and cassava cakes. Those are the best desserts in my opinion.
They also have
It makes you
halo-halo,
fat, you
leche
know?
flan, turon, bukok pandan, and puto. What you call me? If you're either Latin American or Spanish, you may notice some of those foods are also found in Latin cuisines.
Why?
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, we'll explain that in... Now, only in the Philippines can you find people that have Spanish names, speak English, celebrate an Austronesian culture, and cook Chinese.
General
Wow,
MacArthur
so
once said, "Give me 1,000 Filipino
Your
soldiers
culture's
and
so
I'll conquer the world."
complicated.
Yeah, for some reason, Filipinos are like the best friends of Asia. Filipinos still have the best attitudes and smiles. They even give time off felony sentences if the prisoners volunteer to take part in a Michael Jackson dance performance to the public.
Really?
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, the graph. The country has about 110 million people and is the
110
8th most
million
populated
people.
country in
Wow,
Asia,
much
and the
more
12th
than
most
Japanese
populated country in the world.
population.
There are about 175 ethno-linguistic people groups in the Philippines,
Wow.
the majority of whose languages are Austronesian.
Of
Interesting.
these groups, the largest ones are the Tagalog
Yeah,
at
Tagalog,
about
I know,
28%,
yeah.
13% are
That's the main
Cebuano,
language.
9% are Ilocano, and 8% are Bisaya. The rest are made up of other groups plus a small minority of non-native citizens, mostly
Wow.
Asians and Americans.
It's important to note,
So
though,
you guys
that the
don't
Philippines has
understand
about
the other
10.2
languages,
million
right?
people overseas
Wow.
worldwide. It is one of the largest diaspora populations, spanning over 100 countries. The U.S. alone has about 4 million.
I mean, they were at one point colonized by the US, so go figure.
They use the Filipino peso as their currency, they use the types A, B, and C plug outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road.
Oh, and keep in mind the word Pinoy is synonymous with something that is Filipino. You might see that used a lot.
Now back to the ethnic groups thing. Since there are over 175 of them, you would think, how do they all communicate?
Well, the Philippines has two official languages. English, which makes
Yeah,
it the
yeah,
fifth
yeah,
most
yeah.
English-speaking nation on earth, and Filipino, which is the standardized version of Tagalog. The Philippine Tagalog language spoken today is a very different from pure
Oh,
Tagalog.
really?
It
I
actually
didn't
has
know
about
that.
14% Spanish, 10% Malay, and 7% English mixed into it with a slew of other borrowed
Oh,
loanwords.
really?
You can see the influence in words like pintalador, guapo, zapatos, and pamilya. Often, Filipinos will substitute an F with a P,
Or a V with a B.
or a V with a B.
Yeah, same with Koreans, actually.
Oh, really?
High five with minimal consonants!
Yay!
Oh, and fun fact, Ken taught me this. In Tagalog, you can actually say an entire conversation just using the syllable ba. For example,
Ba, 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 ba.
Oh, really?
Ba, 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 ba,
Are you
ba,
sure?
ba, ba,
ba, ba, ba, ba, ba, ba.
ba, ba,
Are
ba.
you
Well,
sure?
that was fun. Otherwise, in the Visayas and Mindanao
You can
area,
make a
Cebuano is
conversation
common
with only
language,
ba.
as well as the other regional tongues
Wow.
like Waray and Daboeno.
They even have the only
Funny.
Spanish-based Creole in Asia, Chavacano, located in Zamboanga City. Now, the Philippines is unique in that over a past few centuries, they've gone through three periods that shaped their identity.
Before European intervention, the Philippines has had a multitude of early civilizations that built kingdoms and dynasties like the Tondo, the Namayan, the Pangasinan, and the Sulu Sultanate.
Many of
I
these
have
kingdoms had their
absolutely
own
no idea
indigenous
about
writing
the
systems,
Philippines
such as the Babayan,
history.
Buhi,
Wow, I
Eskaya,
should
and
learn.
Kulitan.
Genetically, Filipinos are classified as belonging to the broader Austronesian people group, with their closest cousins being the Micronesians, like the Mariana Islanders, Guam, and Palau.
Although over the years, many people have mixed, and today it is speculated that somewhere around 1/5 or more of the population may have some kind of Chinese ancestry. After the Spanish came in, they adopted many of the customs, traditions, and cultural traits
Yeah, I know.
which have
They
Spanish
have
roots. Their own
Spanish
country is
roots.
named after Spanish King Philip. The biggest trait, though, would be the fact that they are predominantly Catholic, at about 81% of the population adhering to the faith.
The rest are mostly Protestant, with a small Muslim minority in the South Mindanao.
I can't tell the
area.
difference.
Philippines is the largest Christian nation in Asia, fifth largest Christian nation on earth, and third largest Catholic nation after Brazil
Oh,
and Mexico.
really?
They have so many holidays and festivals devoted to Catholic themes like All Saints Day, Holy Week, and Easter, and of course, the largest one,
Yeah,
Christmas.
yeah, yeah.
The Philippines
yeah.
has the longest Christmas season out of anywhere
Yeah,
else
I
on
know.
Okay, so now we're
It's
just gonna
with-
rapid fire a list
from
of 12
September,
fun cultural
right?
facts for the Philippines.
So long.
Filipinos have a ton of superstitions. For example, whistling at night will turn you into a werewolf.
For formal
Oh, really?
occasions, you may see Filipinos wearing traditional barongs for men and Maria Clara or mestiza dresses for
Hmm.
women.
There are many other traditional costumes and customs for the other 170 ethnic groups. Too many to cover, but it goes everywhere from feathers, coconut fibers, hair dresses, tribal tattoos, and so on.
Speaking of which, the Philippines dominates major international beauty
Yeah,
pageants.
I
with a
know,
grand total
there are
of
many
15 victories
beautiful
at the Miss
girls.
Universe, Miss World, Miss International, and Miss Earth competitions.
Basketball and boxing are the most popular sport by far. They have the oldest basketball league in Asia,
Oh,
and
really?
the second oldest in the world after the United States. And come on, we all
Yeah,
know Pacquiao.
Pacquiao.
The Philippines is the leading
It's
nation
really
to
famous as
train
well in
and
Japan.
export nurses abroad. It's been said at one point, every Filipino has their "should I just drop everything and become a nurse" moment in their life crisis.
Really?
That's a fact.
Is
I've
it?
had those. And the word balikbayan means returner or returning family. It is used when someone comes back from expat work abroad.
You might hear the honorific title of po or popo for elders, and a lot of people often raise the backs of the hands of their elders to their forehead as a sign of respect and say bless.
In the Philippines, you have your name and you have your Pinoy nickname, and they get really weird and creative. Pepsi, Bing Bong, Jelly Boy, Pinky, Bum Bum, and Earl.
Oh,
Every
really?
Filipino on every island in every region can tell you Filipinos are obsessed with
I
karaoke.
know, they love
the first karaoke
singing,
machine was
yeah.
actually patented by a Filipino.
I can hear
Roberto
them.
del
I can
Rosario,
hear
even though some
them
Japanese
singing
invented it, but he
everywhere,
patented
like
it.
a mall,
Obviously, that means music is a
shopping
big
mall,
deal
you
in the
know,
Philippines.
restaurants.
Besides taking modern cues from American pop, they also
Fantastic.
have traditional style. Instruments include things like gudyapi, kilitang, gimbal, kubing, and togali.
In addition, there are many different styles of dance, but the most famous one considered the national dance is tinikling, a
Tinikling.
dance done between
Wow,
two pairs of
interesting.
perpendicular bamboo poles that are clapped together as percussion tools,
Oh, I
and the
didn't know
dancers
that.
must weave their feet in and out in the spaces before getting hit or tripped.
Now, on a bit of a more objective note, we do have to talk about some of the controversies.
The Philippines is beautiful, but if you've been keeping up with current events, they do have their fair share of issues that have
Hmm.
made headlines. We don't sugarcoat everything here.
Human trafficking, whether into sex industry, slavery, or
human
organ smuggling,
trafficking.
has been a problem in certain areas.
it
And
happen
even though
still
anti-trafficking
now?
acts have been passed by the government, enforcement has not always been on par.
The drug trade has also been a major
Drug
inconvenience for
trading.
decades, affecting millions of people in the country. This has led to the new
Oh, I
controversial
didn't know
laws
that.
instituted by President Duarte, which encouraged the public to seek bounty in exchange for
Yeah, I
hunting
think
down
to tell
drug
the
pushers.
element is
Many have died in the
all
process.
And
This
finally, you have the
illegal
Morocco
stuff.
conflict, an insurgency in the predominantly Muslim Mindanao region, which sought to take parts of eastern Malaysia and break away through conflict. The fight has been going on for nearly half a century, and now it's just ending at the turn of the 21st
good,
century.
good.
Kind of.
For what it's worth, though, in the Philippines, everyone is family at the end. You don't have to be related to anyone to call someone ate or
Ate.
kuya. There's even a word, bayanihan, which means something like helping one another through community spirit
good,
without
good.
expecting anything in return. In any case, we gotta finish off this segment with history.
Austronesians.
Tribal kingdoms and sultanates.
This guy came to the islands.
Catholicism comes in.
Lapu-Lapu and Magellan dies in battle.
5 Spanish dudes followed through.
They finally become a colony of Spain.
Oh, yeah.
The galleon trade.
British Philippines.
And then back to Spain. The Treaty of Paris.
Philippine Revolution.
The
Many people
Spanish-American
came
War.
in.
First Philippine Republic. Philippine-American War.
American occupation.
World War II, Japan
yeah.
invades.
American pushes them back.
Finally, Philippine independence.
Ferdinand Marcos turned from president to dictator.
Martial law.
This guy gets killed because he was
Ah.
against the regime.
People Power Revolution in 1986.
Growth from agricultural society to an industrial one.
And here we are today.
That
And now
was
we finish
very
off
simple
with
history.
the notable famous people condensed. Some famous people you guys, the Pinoy geography suggested we mention in this episode include
Lapu-Lapu.
Jose Rizal, these two saints,
Melchora Aquino.
Manuel L. Quezon,
Lacan Dula. Josefa Yanes Escoda. And
who
Vicente
that?
Lim.
Carlos Peña Romulo.
And all the Miss Universe winners. And there's a ton of Americans with Filipino or partial Filipino descent.
Yeah, you can see there's lots of American Filipinos. Those
I don't
two
know
get
most
along
of
pretty
them.
tight.
We'll explain more on how that happened in...
Friend zone.
Because of the long history in the Philippines being colonized by 2 major Western powerhouses, it would make sense that it would have ties with the outside world in many different ways.
For friends, the Philippines is generally close with all the ASEAN nations and does great business with them, particularly Indonesia and Malaysia, their closest
Oh.
neighbors.
The Marshall Islands, Palau, and the federal states of Micronesia are all cousin countries,
really?
many of which have Filipino migrants in them, and they all share the same history of being former U.S. territories and U.S.-influenced states.
Of course, Spain will always be in the back of their minds as the former colonizer that they gained much influence
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
Although Filipinos are not considered Latino, the Spanish and many Latin Americans
Oh,
kind of
really?
see them as like
I
the
thought
adopted
they were kind of
Asians that
Latino.
totally fit in their family. It's like,
Sorry
come on,
about
you're
that.
Catholic, you eat flan, every 5th word you speak is Spanish, you're basically one of us.
Interestingly enough, the relationship with Mexico has historically been always strong.
Oh.
The Philippines was ruled under a Mexico-based viceroyalty
Oh,
of
really?
New Spain. The Manila galleons were Spanish trading ships, which for 2.5
Mm-hmm.
centuries linked the Philippines with Mexico across the Pacific Ocean, making 1 or 2 round-trip voyages per year between the ports of Acapulco and Manila. And Mexican traditions were brought in like the Day of the Dead and Champorado.
When it comes to their best friends,
Champorado.
however, most Filipinos would probably say, even though colonial years were a little bit bumpy, ultimately the USA and South Korea.
South Korea was one of their closest best friends from the 20th century on. World War II really
Really?
bonded with them after the Japanese occupation years, and they supported each other
I know
diplomatically.
cancel
Koreans
Korea
are the top
movement
#1
here.
tourist demographic that visit the Philippines. Koreans kind of admire the fact that even though they were both influenced by the US, Filipinos speak better English, whereas Filipinos practically obsess over Korean products and media.
Yeah,
us.
I know.
That's why we're
Some of them
in
really
it.
love Korean.
For the USA, ties were close ever since they became their colony in 1898. The US also had the largest number of overseas Filipinos at over 4 million, most of whom live on the West Coast states like
working,
Hawaii
right?
and California. They are one of the oldest Asian partners of the US. They have a mutual defense treaty, and they are the largest export partner and second largest import after China.
American pop culture dominates much of the youth influence. Hollywood studios love filming there, and Gallup polls have shown that the USA is favored on average by over 90% of the people asked, making it one of the most pro-American countries on the planet.
Wow.
And Ken, you take the conclusion.
In conclusion, if you enter a room full of Asians, you definitely know who the Filipinos are. While everyone's so uptight, we're the ones singing karaoke and somersaulting. You could just feel the energy of a Filipino. There's a touch of Latin flavor with American pop undertones. But in the end, no matter what island, you're immediately considered part of the Pinoy family.
Ken, you're one of my best friends. I love you, man. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. Stay tuned. Poland is coming up.
Oh, that was good. There are many things that I don't know. Wow. Yeah, I knew Philippines has many islands, many cultures, many languages, but that was quite interesting that, there are much more. Japan, we are kind of similar to Philippines. Geography-wise, we have many islands, earthquake country, but population, cultures, languages, it's incomparable. It's much more than Japan. There are much more. That's incredible. And historically, I knew Philippines were colonized by many countries, America, Japan, Spain, Mexico, but that was quite interesting that Korea was one of the closest country to Philippines, and now you can see many cancel Korea movement in the Philippines. So I don't know what's going on there. I should learn about that first. But what happened? Is Korea something wrong to Philippines? Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for watching my video. Hope you like it. If you do, make sure to like button and subscribe, please. So, またな。